Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, some of these unsolved mysteries in history, they grab you and don't let go.
Yeah.
And today we're diving deep into one of those, the assassination of Huey P. Long,
Right.
the Kingfish of Louisiana.
Absolutely. And even after all these years,
Oh, yeah?
the events of September 8th, 1935 still generate debate and discussion, and the sources you've provided
Oh, yeah.
are just incredible firsthand accounts, historical documents.
Amazing.
We've even got some political gossip
Ooh.
that really brings us into that era.
Yeah, it really brings us right into that tumultuous era. It's like having a front row seat to history in a way.
It is.
Before we get into all that drama, I think we need to kind of paint a picture for our listeners.
Okay.
Who was Huey Long, and why was Louisiana politics so centered around this one man?
So Huey Long was really a captivating figure.
Right.
He came from very humble beginnings to become a master politician.
Yeah.
A true populist who really understood the needs of everyday people and his social programs, things like free textbooks.
Yeah. Infrastructure projects, roads and bridges really transformed Louisiana.
Especially during the Depression.
Especially during the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. He brought tangible benefits to people who had been neglected for far too long.
So he was like a Robin Hood figure, kind of taking from the rich and powerful and giving back to the people.
There's definitely a parallel there.
Yeah.
He challenged the old money elites, the big oil companies,
Right.
the political establishment. He believed in redistributing wealth and empowering the working class.
Interesting.
And that's where his Share Our Wealth program comes in.
Oh, yeah.
This was really kind of a radical idea for its time, proposing limits on personal fortunes.
Right.
And guaranteeing income for every American family.
Wow. So that's a very ambitious
Yeah.
platform. And that kind of rhetoric must really shaken things up.
It did. He had this remarkable talent for connecting with the common man.
Yeah.
Using very folksy language and humor.
Yeah. To explain these complex issues, and our sources actually describe his flamboyant style,
Okay.
even mentioning a story about his diamond buttons.
Wait, what's this about diamond buttons?
So a fellow legislator once kind of teased him about it, saying, "I bet you've even got diamond buttons on your drawers."
Oh my gosh.
It just goes to show you his larger-than-life personality.
Wow. Yeah, I can see how that would make him both popular and polarizing at the same time.
Right.
But this popularity didn't come without a price, did it? What about these accusations of dictatorial tendencies and the kind of hardball tactics he was known for?
You're hitting on a crucial point here.
Yeah.
He was incredibly effective,
Right.
but his methods were often very controversial. Think of it like building a house. You can either use quality materials and skilled labor,
Right.
or you can cut corners and intimidate people into working for cheap. Long was definitely the latter.
Okay.
He built this powerful political machine,
Yeah.
rewarding loyalty with patronage jobs and using his control over the legislature to really silence opposition.
So while he was championing the needs of the people, he was also consolidating power in a way that some might find concerning.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Exactly. We've got to understand this duality.
Yeah.
He was both a progressive force who brought real tangible benefits to Louisiana,
Yeah.
but he was also this ruthless politician who didn't hesitate to bend the rules to achieve his goals.
Speaking of bending the rules, what about this whole Judge Pavey situation and this gerrymandering scheme?
Oh, yeah.
It seems that he wasn't above using his political power to target rivals.
This really highlights the tension that was brewing in Louisiana at the time.
Oh, for sure.
Imagine a map being cut up and rearranged.
Right.
Just to benefit one person. That's essentially what gerrymandering is.
Yeah.
Long wanted to redraw the district lines of St. Landry Parish,
Okay.
specifically to remove Judge Pavey,
Yeah.
a longtime opponent, from office.
Wow. It seems very personal, almost vindictive. Why go through such lengths to target one judge?
Well, it goes beyond just a personal grudge.
Okay.
Judge Pavey was a symbol of the old establishment, the kind of power that Long was challenging.
Right.
By removing him, Long was consolidating his control
Yeah.
and sending a message, cross me and you'll face the consequences.
It sounds like a power play, but it also seems to connect directly to the assassination.
Exactly.
Judge Pavey was Dr. Weiss's father-in-law, and some believe that this gerrymandering plot played a role in motivating Weiss to act.
That's one of the most intriguing aspects of this story. Did Long's relentless pursuit of power, even at a personal level, contribute to his own demise? It's something we're going to explore later when we dive into the motives for the assassination.
So fascinating how all these pieces fit together.
Right.
So before we get to the assassination itself,
Okay.
Can you give us a sense of what was happening in the days leading up to it? Our sources mentioned a trip to New York.
Yep.
And a flurry of activity upon his return to Louisiana.
Like the calm before the storm, right? So, Long was in New York working on his book, My First Days in the White House.
Oh, wow.
Clearly signaling his national ambitions.
Right.
And there's even the story about him meeting the radio personality Phil Baker and his niece.
Okay.
Cleantha Carr, who was an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying to recruit her.
Oh, wow.
To illustrate his book.
Always the showman. I can just picture him like full of energy.
Oh, yeah.
And charm, trying to convince this artist to come and work with him.
Exactly. And when he got back to Louisiana, he really threw himself back into the political fray.
Oh, yeah.
Pushing legislation, holding late-night meetings with advisors.
Right.
Really solidifying his control.
It's almost like he was racing against time, trying to achieve as much as possible
before the unthinkable happened.
Yeah, there's an almost tragic irony there, isn't there? This man, at the height of his power, seemingly on the cusp of achieving his national dreams.
Right.
And then it's all suddenly cut short. And our sources actually even mention the conversation he had with his close friend Seymour Weiss the day before the assassination, where he says, everything's in wonderful shape.
Oh, wow.
It's never been in better shape.
It's haunting.
It really is, knowing what was to come.
Yeah, it really sets the stage for this dramatic turn of events that's going to unfold in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've set the stage.
Yeah.
We understand who Huey Long was, the complexities of his legacy, the simmering tensions that we're building in Louisiana. Now in the next segment, we'll dive into the day of the assassination itself.
Okay.
We'll unravel the conflicting accounts of what happened that night in the Capitol building, explore the chaotic scene at the hospital.
Yes.
And try to understand the mystery surrounding Dr. Weiss's motives.
Absolutely. Welcome back to our deep dive into the assassination of Huey P. Long.
Yeah, last time we left off with Long at the peak of his power, seemingly invincible.
Yeah, invincible, but yet this undercurrent of tension, like something was about to break.
Absolutely, like a powder keg ready to explode.
Exactly. So let's fast forward to that fateful night, Sunday, September 8th, 1935.
Huh?
The setting is the Louisiana State Capitol building, a place that had witnessed countless political battles.
Oh, sure.
But nothing quite like what was about to unfold.
Our sources describe a lot of activity that night. Like Long was immersed in legislative work.
Yes.
Going over bills, meeting with allies.
A lot going on.
Seems like business as usual.
Right.
But then we have this mysterious figure lurking in the background. Dr. Carl Weiss.
This is where the story takes a dramatic turn.
Yeah.
We have eyewitness accounts from people like John Fournette, Elliot Coleman, Murphy Roden.
Right.
All placing Dr. Weiss at the Capitol that night.
Okay.
But their versions of what happened differ in some really key details.
So we have these multiple perspectives.
Yes.
Each offering a glimpse into the chaos.
Yeah.
What are some of the key discrepancies that stand out to you?
Well, for one, there's the question of Dr. Weiss's movements leading up to the shooting.
Okay.
Some witnesses describe him pacing nervously near the entrance to the governor's office, while others say he was further down the hall. It's almost like everyone saw fragments of the same event, but couldn't quite agree on the order in which they occurred.
It's like that Rashomon effect.
Yes.
Where the same event is perceived differently by each witness.
Exactly.
Creating this fragmented and ultimately unreliable narrative.
Exactly. And this unreliability extends to the shooting itself.
Oh, wow.
Some witnesses like Fournette claim that Dr. Weiss fired the first shot.
Okay.
Striking Long in the abdomen.
Right.
Others like Roden maintain that Weiss only fired once during a struggle, and that the fatal shot might have come from one of Long's bodyguards.
Okay, so now this is where things get really murky. The possibility of a bodyguard accidentally shooting Long adds a whole other layer of intrigue to this story.
It really does.
Yeah.
This theory, known as the bodyguard bullet theory, has persisted for decades.
Wow.
Fueled by rumors and speculation.
Yeah.
It speaks to the deep distrust that surrounded Long.
Right.
This belief that his own allies might have had reason to silence him.
Wow.
However, as we'll see, there's really very little concrete evidence to support this theory.
Okay, before we delve into that, I think it's important to highlight just the sheer chaos that followed the shooting.
Yes.
Our sources paint a very vivid picture of just the frantic efforts to save Long's life.
Oh, yeah.
His rushed trip to the hospital and the conflicting medical opinions swirling around his case.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that even with the best medical care available at the time, some injuries were simply too severe to overcome.
And this was 1935.
1935, long before the advancements in trauma surgery and critical care that we have today.
So the doctors did their best, but they were working with limited tools and knowledge.
They were.
Can you give us a sense of how those surgical techniques of the time differed from what we have today?
Well, imagine a world without antibiotics, without advanced imaging technology, like CT scans, without blood banks readily available.
Wow.
Surgeons really relied heavily on their clinical judgment, making decisions based on what they could see and feel during an operation.
Sounds incredibly risky, almost like a gamble with life or death.
It was a gamble, and in Long's case, despite the frantic efforts of the medical team, his condition continued to deteriorate.
Yeah, our sources mention disagreements among the doctors.
Yes.
About the best course of treatment.
They did.
A lot of second-guessing and finger-pointing, even in the midst of this crisis.
It happens a lot in high-profile cases, especially when the stakes are so high.
Absolutely.
The pressure to save a prominent figure like Long must have been immense.
I can only imagine.
And in the end, they couldn't stop the internal bleeding.
Such a tragic end to a complex and controversial life.
It is.
But even in death, the drama surrounding Huey Long didn't cease.
No, it didn't.
Investigations, accusations of cover-ups, the rise of new political players vying for power.
All happening.
It's almost Shakespearean in scope.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Long's assassination created this power vacuum in Louisiana politics. And the scramble to fill it was immediate and intense.
His allies, figures like Richard Lecce, Oscar Allen, even his brother Earl Long,
all of them.
They sought to maintain the Kingfish's legacy and continue his populist programs.
That's right. They inherited this powerful political machine
that Long had carefully built
over years of patronage and strategic maneuvering.
Did they manage to maintain his grip on the state?
For a while, it seemed like they might. They had the name recognition, the connections, the support of Long's very loyal followers. But political machines are often built around a very charismatic leader. And without Huey's, forceful personality and his ruthless tactics, the cracks began to show.
It's like a car losing its engine.
Yes.
It might coast for a while, but eventually it's going to come to a stop.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And in Louisiana's case, the car eventually ran into this new faction, the Home Rule Group.
The Home Rule Group.
Yeah, these were politicians who, while not necessarily opposed to all of Long's policies, wanted to reform the state government, reduce corruption, bring a sense of balance back to Louisiana politics.
So kind of cleaning up the mess left behind by the Long machine.
Yeah, to restore some semblance of order.
Did they succeed?
They had some success, but Long's legacy proved to be remarkably resilient.
Interesting.
His populist message, his focus on the common man, continued to resonate with voters. And his impact on Louisiana's political culture, the distrust of elites, the emphasis on social programs, the willingness to challenge the status quo, all of that continued to shape the state's political landscape for decades to come.
It's amazing how one figure can have such a profound and lasting impact.
It is.
Even after death.
It speaks to the power of ideas.
Yeah.
And the enduring legacy of those who dare to challenge the established order.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on to explore Long's legacy in more detail, I think it's important to circle back to one unresolved issue from earlier. The gerrymandering plot against Judge Pavey.
Oh, yes, the political vendetta.
That seemed to set the stage for the assassination. What ultimately happened with it?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Even though Long was gone, the machinery he had set in motion continued to operate.
Okay.
The Louisiana legislature, still largely under the control of his allies, went ahead and passed the bill to redraw the judicial district lines.
So even in death, Long achieved his goal of silencing his opponent.
It seems so.
Wow.
But remember, the wheels of justice often turn slowly.
Okay.
the following year with a new legislature in place and a shifting political climate. Another bill was passed. This one undid the gerrymandering plan, creating a new judicial district consisting solely of St. Landry Parish.
So they reversed it.
They reversed it. Judge Pavey was reinstated.
Wow, that's a dramatic reversal.
It is.
So in the end, Long's attempt to manipulate the system backfired.
It did.
Wow.
It's a reminder that political power is never absolute.
Right.
Even the most carefully laid plans can be overturned by the tide of public opinion and the unpredictable nature of events.
It makes you wonder if Dr. Weiss had known that the gerrymandering would eventually be reversed. Would he have taken such drastic action? Would he have sacrificed his own life to prevent something that, in the grand scheme of things, proved to be a temporary setback?
It's a haunting thought.
It is.
It highlights the tragedy of this whole situation.
So we've explored the aftermath of the assassination, the power struggles, the eventual resolution of the gerrymandering plot. But there's one question that still lingers. Why did Dr. Weiss do it?
The million-dollar question.
What drove him to take such drastic and ultimately fatal action?
That's what we'll delve into in the next segment. We'll finally look at the various theories about Dr. Weiss's motives, examining the evidence, the conflicting accounts, and the whispers of forgotten events that might shed some light on this enduring mystery.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We spent the last two segments tracing this dramatic arc of Huey P. Long's life and the lingering mystery surrounding his death.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. We've seen how he rose to power, challenged the establishment, and ultimately left, I think, an indelible mark on Louisiana's political landscape.
Absolutely.
But now I think in this final segment, we need to kind of shift our focus to Dr. Carl Weiss, the man who allegedly fired the fatal shot.
Yes.
And I'm particularly curious about this because so far he seems like a bit of an enigma. We've heard about his connection to Judge Pavey and that whole gerrymandering plot. But what do our sources tell us about Dr. Weiss himself? His character, his motivations?
It's a question that has puzzled historians for decades. You know, those who knew Dr. Weiss personally describe him as a quiet, unassuming man. A dedicated family doctor. Not someone that you would typically associate with violence.
That contrast just adds to the mystery, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like, what could have possibly driven this seemingly ordinary man to such a desperate act?
Let's dive into the evidence and explore the main theories about Dr. Weiss's motive. One possibility that's been widely circulated is that he was part of a larger political conspiracy to assassinate Long.
Like something out of a political thriller.
You know, a shadowy group plotting to eliminate this powerful and controversial figure.
But how much evidence is there to support this theory?
That's where it gets tricky. While Long certainly had his fair share of enemies, there's no concrete evidence linking Dr. Weiss to any kind of organized plot. In fact, some historians argue that choosing Weiss is a relatively unknown doctor with no prior political involvement would have been a strange choice for a sophisticated conspiracy.
It doesn't really add up.
It doesn't.
So if this grand political conspiracy seems unlikely, what about a more personal motive? We've already talked about the gerrymandering of Judge Pavey, Dr. Weiss's father-in-law. Could that have been the trigger?
It's certainly possible. You know, imagine your own family being targeted, your livelihood threatened by this powerful politician. It's not hard to see how that could create a sense of outrage, a desire for retribution. However, those who knew Dr. Weiss well argue that an act of impulsive violence, driven solely by political revenge, wouldn't have been in line with his character.
So we're back to that dissonance between the act and the man.
Exactly.
It seems like we need a motive that fits with what we know about Dr. Weiss's personality. His values, his beliefs.
And that's where the theory of pure patriotism comes in. This explanation, offered by Dr. Weiss's uncle, Judge Pavey, suggests that Weiss might have been deeply troubled by Long's dictatorial tendencies, his grip on Louisiana, his potential rise to national power.
So he felt like he needed to take action. He saw himself as
sacrificing himself.
Acting for the greater good, yeah.
For the greater good to save the country from this dangerous demagogue.
It's a compelling argument, but I have to admit, it's a bit hard to swallow.
I understand.
You know, if Dr. Weiss was truly driven by such profound patriotic convictions, shouldn't there be more evidence of his political activism?
Yes.
His opposition to Long. Our sources don't really paint that picture.
You're right to be skeptical.
Yeah.
The pure patriotism theory rests heavily on assumptions about Dr. Weiss's inner thoughts and motivations.
Yeah.
Assumptions that are difficult to prove or disprove.
So where does that leave us?
Right.
We've considered political conspiracies.
Yeah.
Revenge motives, acts of patriotism.
Yeah, we've run the gamut.
Yeah, we really have.
Yeah.
But none of these theories fully explain Dr. Weiss's actions. Is there anything else we can glean from our sources?
There is one more possibility, a theory that has been somewhat overlooked.
Okay.
But it offers a more nuanced understanding of the complex dynamics at play.
Yeah.
This theory revolves around a forgotten incident from Judge Pavey's past.
Okay.
A racial slur that was used against him.
Oh, wow.
During a political campaign decades earlier.
A racial slur. How does that tie into the assassination?
So the incident dates back to 1908. When Judge Pavey was first running for office, his opponent, Sheriff Swords, publicly accused him of having an ancestor of African descent.
Oh, wow.
Now remember,
Yeah.
this was the early 20th century,
Right.
a time when racial prejudice was deeply ingrained in society.
Absolutely.
This kind of accusation could destroy a person's reputation,
Yeah.
especially in the political arena.
So it was used as a weapon.
Absolutely.
To shame and discredit their opponent.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder how Judge Pavey responded to this.
Well, he denied the accusation, of course, but the damage was done.
Right.
You know, the rumor lingered.
It's like a stain that can't be removed.
Yeah, this whisper from the past that could resurface at any moment.
Wow.
Now, fast forward to 1935.
Okay.
Huey Long, known for his ruthless tactics, his willingness to exploit his opponent's weaknesses, might have seen this old rumor as an opportunity to discredit Judge Pavey, consolidate his control over St. Landry Parish.
So you're saying that Dr. Weiss, fearing that Long might dredge up this old slander to attack his father-in-law, and by extension, his family, might have felt compelled to act.
Precisely.
Wow.
This theory suggests that Dr. Weiss was driven not by political ambition or revenge, but by this deep sense of loyalty and a desire to protect his family from a devastating blow.
It's a heartbreaking scenario, isn't it?
It is.
A man driven to desperation by this desire to shield his loved ones from harm.
It adds this layer of human tragedy.
Yeah, it really
to this already complex, unresolved case.
It reminds us that history isn't just about dates and events.
Right.
It's about people making choices.
Yes.
Often impossible choices.
Impossible choices.
In the face of extraordinary circumstances, we can only speculate what was going through Dr. Weiss's mind in those final moments.
Right.
But this theory, rooted in the deeply personal and the intensely private, offers, I think, a compelling explanation.
It does.
For his actions.
It challenges us to consider the ripple effects of power. How the actions of those in authority can have these unintended and tragic consequences.
Absolutely.
For ordinary people caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, it seems like we're left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
You know, we've explored the facts, the theories, the whispers of these forgotten events.
Absolutely.
But the true motive behind Huey Long's assassination remains elusive.
It's the nature of history, isn't it? It's rarely this neat and tidy narrative with clear-cut heroes and villains. More often than not, we're left with ambiguity, with these fragments of truth that refuse to neatly align.
But I think in that ambiguity, there's a certain beauty. There's this recognition that the past is never truly settled.
Right.
There's always more to uncover, more to understand.
Always.
And perhaps in wrestling with these unanswered questions, we gain a deeper appreciation for just the complexities of human behavior.
Absolutely.
The enduring power of history's unsolved mysteries.
I agree.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
Yes.
Filled with fascinating details.
Yeah.
Thought-provoking questions. So thank you for guiding us through this.
You're welcome.
This complex and tragic chapter of American history.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, as we continue to grapple with the past, to seek understanding and make connections to the present, we're not just passively consuming history. We're actively shaping our own narratives, our own interpretations of the events that continue to resonate through time.
And sometimes the most profound discoveries are the ones we make, not in dusty archives or history textbooks, but within ourselves, as we confront our own biases, challenge our assumptions, and strive to make sense of the world around us.
I agree.
Well, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
It was fun.
We'll see you next time for another journey into the depths of history.